Hi everybody, happy Tuesday. It's Allison Castle, Holistic Health Coach, and I help women who are battling the mirror, the scale, and food naturally find harmony with their body and balance and fulfillment in their life. So a lot of people ask me why I became a health coach. Health coaching, at least in my area, is not something that's real big yet, so most people aren't really even sure what a health coach is. So I'm going to just briefly tell you how I ended up here. So my journey to health, okay, it started quite a while ago and not maybe in the healthiest way. In high school, the first memory I have of really being self-conscious about my body and really hating the way I looked was probably sophomore year. I was on the volleyball team, and we had to wear those god-awful, like, bun huggers, and they looked like diapers. So at that point, I really started to feel self-conscious about the way my legs looked. I mean, because my full leg was really exposed. And after that, in high school, I actually was on the swim team as well. So constantly had my body very much exposed to other people, you know, my peers, parents, you know, just anybody who would come see the sport. It felt like I was on display. So I became very, very self-conscious. When that happened, I did anything I could to keep my weight down. And at that point, that was the low-fat, fat-free kind of craze going on. So I ate low-fat, fat-free food, processed food. Snackwells, I funded so many of their sales in my high school years. That's what I ate all the time. I rarely ate any real food, fruits or vegetables or anything. I was so focused on looking at the label and making sure I was staying under a certain number of grams of fat a day, and that was how I was maintaining my shape, because I thought any fat I ate would make me fat. So that was a horrible time. I was constantly battling the mirror, constantly battling the scale. Food, the same thing. If I went off my low-fat diet at all, I just beat myself up. I would exercise excessively. I would count calories, try to figure out how many hours of exercise I would need to do to burn off all those calories. So you would find me like continually jogging around my house as a high schooler, usually with like weights on my ankles, and carrying weights in my hands. I'd run up and down our stairs constantly. I was obsessive. It wasn't good. It wasn't healthy. So lucky for me, I met my husband in high school, and so I wasn't quite as worried about my body from that perspective anymore, like worrying about what guys thought of how I looked. Because I found my husband who loved me for who I was. Now, granted, I still wanted to stay skinny, but I was able to cut some of that obsessive stuff out. But I still relied on like the low-fat and the fat-free packaged foods, and that was like through high school, through college, through our marriage, at the beginning of our marriage, because we were living on the cheap. So processed foods were the way to go. You know, Hamburger Helper, mac and cheese, any of that stuff you could buy so cheap. And you know, during that time when I started working, I did start gaining weight. You know, I was getting older, my metabolism was changing. So I started to feel self-conscious again because I was putting on some extra weight because I wasn't eating healthy food. I also had become vegetarian around that time too. Partly that was because I thought if I cut out, especially red meat, that would help me cut out fat, keep me thin. But I also have always loved animals, so it wasn't that far of a stretch. But the unfortunate thing was I was doing the junk food vegetarian thing. I still ate a ton of dairy, so it's like I was eating frozen cheese pizzas and macaroni and cheese and yogurt and ice cream, and I wasn't eating the low sugar yogurt. I was eating, you know, the yogurt that's full of sugar. So, yeah, still not taking really very good care of myself. I got pregnant with my son, and when he was born, the doctor, he was probably about 4 or 5 months old. He was not moving on the growth chart the way the doctors wanted him to. So at that point, I had another kind of kick. I think it was always something about myself that I didn't ever felt like I was enough, like I was good enough. So that just shifted for me. It went from, oh, you're not a good enough mom. So for him, we started getting him into like the baby food and started feeding him food as quickly as possible because we thought that was the best way to bump up his calories, or that's kind of what the doctor said. We gave him Pediasure. We did and he was a picky eater at the time too, probably my fault on that one. But he would eat chicken nuggets and mac and cheese and just any of the processed packaged foods I could find that seemed to have high calories. What was really interesting is none of that really worked. It was always a battle for his body too. So, as I was constantly battling my body to stay thin, I was constantly battling his body to grow. And it was stressful. 3 years later, I had my daughter. She was fairly healthy. She was actually my chunky baby. She ate well, so that was really a relief. But when she was a couple of years old, actually not even a couple of years old, she was younger than that, she contracted RSV, and from that started a spiral of her having asthma. So having two children, granted, many people have much scarier health concerns with their children than I do, but that made me look a little bit deeper into what other things I could do to help my children get healthier. I luckily had a really awesome friend at a play group. She was very much into more natural type of foods and medicines and things like that. So from inspiration from her, I did a lot of research into nutrition. I watched documentaries, articles, started following certain more naturopathic type of doctors, functional medicine doctors, got a little really great information, started changing my perspective on food, started transitioning more to real food because I was looking more at the nutritional value versus the calories or grams of fat. So that was a huge shift for me, and that shift started my love so much of more natural type of medicine, eating naturally, trying to get toxins out of our house, all those type of things. So it shifted me a lot in the way I worked with my own family and tried to keep them healthy. And I wanted to share it with others. So that made me shift into a new line of career. And up until that point, I was an accountant. I still do some accounting work on occasion. But I found that the accounting work didn't really fill me up. It wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't a passion of mine. But man, this health stuff, that just lit me up. I was so excited to share with other people and help them make the transition, not exactly the way my journey went, but help them in any way they wanted to improve their health as well. So I started my first health coaching venture in 2014. I got my first certification, and that was very much focused on food, lots of different dietary theory information, so interesting, some personal growth in there too. But I was still kind of like beating myself up, like, you're not going to be good at this, I've always, as I talked about in my last video, always had like the perfectionist paralysis. So if I didn't think I could do something perfectly, man, I was going to hide it and hide in the shadows. And I felt this way when I first got my certification for health coaching. And it wasn't until I started through a second round of health coach training, actually with a different school, that I dug even deeper into my own personal stuff. My own personal perfectionist paralysis, feeling like I wasn't enough. Because, I was starting to be happy with the way I looked. Like, my weight didn't really bother me anymore. I have some extra skin left over from my pregnancies. I started to accept that more. Just feeling more like I was enough the way I was and truly loving myself. That started shifting for me in this second schooling, the second year of my health coaching program. And that made a big difference for me. So, the people I work with, kind of interestingly enough, I am one of those people. So that's kind of why I decided to focus on health coaching and helping women who are having that battle, but also helping people, move towards that healthier journey. So health coaching is a huge passion for me, and it's fascinating what you can get to from shifting your diet, but also shifting your mindset and the way you feel about yourself. So that's my journey. It probably was a little bit longer than any of you expected, so thanks for hanging in there with me. But I would love to talk to you. If you feel like you're in that group where you're battling the scale, you're battling food, you're battling the mirror, you're never quite happy with yourself, you're waiting to lose that last 10 pounds before you feel like you can truly live your life and have it be the fullest and most amazing ever, I would love to talk to you. I will post my website below, and I offer a free 1-hour introductory session that I'd love to just talk to you about what your goals are, what you'd like to see out of your life and your health and your weight, and help you love your body the way I finally started loving mine and just finding pure joy in my life and freedom. But I'll post that in the comments. I'll post that in the above the video, actually. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. And thanks for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your week.